Julián Álvarez to Arsenal. The first bid that could change everything. Arsenal fans, something big may be happening behind the scenes. The Gunners are reportedly making a serious move for one of the most exciting forwards in European football, Julián Álvarez. Reports suggest Arsenal have made an initial approach to Atlético Madrid as Mikel Arteta continues his search for another elite attacking option. But this is not simply another transfer rumour. If Arsenal can convince Atlético Madrid to negotiate, Alvarez could completely change the way Arteta's attack operates. And there is one huge question we need to answer today. Could Julián Álvarez actually be the striker Arsenal have been waiting for? Before we get into the details, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications and tell us in the comments, would you take Julián Álvarez at Arsenal? Let's get into it. Arsenal's interest in Alvarez makes sense when you look at the qualities Arteta wants from his forwards. The Argentine is not just a traditional number 9. He can lead the line, drop deeper, combine with midfielders, attack space and move into wider areas. That versatility is extremely important for Arsenal. Arteta's football depends heavily on movement. The striker must be capable of linking with the midfield, pressing defenders, creating space for teammates and, most importantly, delivering when chances arrive. Alvarez can offer all of those things, and that is why this potential transfer is so fascinating. Arsenal wouldn't simply be signing another striker. They could be signing a forward capable of giving the entire attack another dimension. Why Alvarez? Let's imagine Arsenal's attack with Alvarez leading the line. Imagine him receiving the ball between the lines, combining with Arsenal's midfielders, and then suddenly spinning behind the defence. That movement could create problems for Premier League defenders. And when Arsenal dominate possession, Alvarez's intelligence could become especially valuable. He doesn't necessarily need to wait inside the penalty area for the ball. He can participate in the build-up, he can move defenders, he can create opportunities for teammates, and he can still arrive in dangerous positions himself. For Arteta, that flexibility could be priceless. There is another reason this transfer makes sense. Arsenal have spent recent seasons building a squad capable of competing at the highest level. The midfield has quality. The defence has quality. The wide areas have dangerous players. But whenever Arsenal struggle, one of the biggest discussions is often about their ability to turn pressure into goals. That is where a player like Alvarez becomes extremely interesting. He could potentially give Arsenal another reliable source of goals without forcing Arteta to completely change his football. Instead, Alvarez could become another piece of the system. Now comes the difficult part. Arsenal may want Alvarez, but Atlético Madrid have no reason to make life easy for them. The Spanish club invested heavily in the Argentine and view him as an important part of their project. That means Arsenal could face tough negotiations. An opening bid does not necessarily mean a transfer is close. In fact, an initial proposal can sometimes be just the beginning of a long negotiation. Atletico could reject the offer. They could demand significantly more money. They could insist on conditions that Arsenal are unwilling to accept. And this is where the story becomes really interesting, because Arsenal have to decide how much is Julián Álvarez worth to the Dun. This could become one of the biggest issues in the entire transfer. Arsenal cannot simply pay whatever Atlético Madrid demand. They have to consider the overall squad. They have other positions to strengthen. They have salaries to manage. They have future transfers to think about. So even if Arteta considers Alvarez a dream signing, the club still has to make the numbers work. And that could determine whether this story ends with Alvarez walking into the Emirates or Arsenal eventually moving on to another target. One of Alvarez's biggest strengths is his ability to operate in different attacking roles. That could be incredibly useful for Arsenal. Imagine Arsenal needing a traditional striker. Alvarez can't play there. Imagine Arteta wants his forward to drop deeper and connect with midfield. Alvarez can do that. Imagine Arsenal need movement from the front three. Again, Alvarez can provide it. This versatility means Arteta could change the shape of the attack during matches without necessarily changing personnel. And in modern football, that tactical flexibility can make a huge difference. But let's not get carried away. Moving to the Premier League is a major challenge. The competition is physically demanding, the schedule is intense, defenders are aggressive, and expectations at Arsenal are enormous. Alvarez would not be arriving at a club where he can take months and months to settle without pressure. Arsenal fans would immediately expect goals, they would expect big performances, they would expect him to deliver in important matches. That pressure is part of playing for a club competing for major trophies, but Alvarez has already experienced enormous expectations during his career. That could help him handle the spotlight. Let's break it down. First, movement. Alvarez's ability to find space could make him dangerous against defensive teams. Second, finishing. Arsenal need forwards who can punish opponents when opportunities appear. Third, link-up play. He can participate in combinations instead of simply waiting for crosses. Fourth, pressing. A modern Arteta striker has defensive responsibilities, and Alvarez's work rate can fit that philosophy. Fifth, versatility. He can give Arteta tactical options. Put all five together and you begin to understand why Arsenal could be interested. This is where the debate gets even more interesting. Arsenal already have attacking talent, so why spend heavily on another forward? Because elite teams don't simply build starting 11s, they build squads. If Arsenal want to compete deep into the Premier League, Champions League and domestic competitions, they need quality options across the season. Injuries happen, form changes, opponents change their tactics, and sometimes the difference between winning a trophy and finishing second comes down to having another match winner available from the bench. Alvarez could potentially provide exactly that. And then there is Mikel Arteta. Arteta has spent years developing a very specific footballing identity at Arsenal. He wants technical quality, he wants intelligent movement, he wants players who can understand different positions, and he wants his forwards to contribute without the ball. That makes Alvarez an intriguing tactical fit. Arteta could potentially use him as the central striker, but also create different attacking combinations around him. And that unpredictability could be one of Arsenal's biggest weapons. Now, Arsenal fans are waiting for Atlético Madrid. The response to the reported opening move could tell us a lot. If Atletico immediately reject the approach, Arsenal will have to decide whether to return with an improved proposal. If negotiations begin, the situation could become much more serious. And if the two clubs eventually find common ground, Alvarez himself would then become the centre of attention. Would he want Arsenal? Would he see the Emirates as the right next step? Would Arteta be able to convince him that Arsenal is the perfect place to continue his career? Those questions could ultimately determine everything. Think about what this transfer would represent. Arsenal wouldn't just be adding another player, they would be sending a message to Manchester City, a message to Liverpool, a message to Chelsea, a message to Manchester United, and a message to the rest of Europe. That message would be simple. Arsenal are serious about winning. Signing a player of Alvarez's profile would show that the club isn't satisfied with simply competing. They want to take another step. They want more goals, more quality, more depth, and ultimately more trophies. So could Julián Álvarez be the striker Arsenal have been searching for? There is certainly a footballing argument for it. His movement fits. His technical ability fits. His versatility fits, his work rate fits, and his mentality could fit a club with major ambitions. But the biggest obstacle may not be whether Alvarez fits Arsenal. It could be whether Arsenal and Atletico Madrid can agree on a deal that works for both sides. The first move has reportedly been made. Now comes the difficult part, negotiations. And if Arsenal really want Alvarez, they may have to prove just how serious they are. Because Atletico Madrid will not simply hand over one of their most important attackers. And now I want to hear from you. Would Julián Álvarez be the perfect striker for Arsenal? Would you spend big money to bring him to the Emirates? Or should Arsenal target another forward? Drop your opinion in the comments, because this transfer could become one of the biggest stories of the window. If you enjoyed this analysis, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and don't forget to like and share this video with another Arsenal fan. Because if Arsenal's first move for Julián Álvarez is real, this story could only be getting started. Julián Álvarez to Arsenal. The opening move may have been made. Now we wait for Atlético Madrid's answer, and that answer could change everything.